This is an unplanned video in any case. I'm just sitting here reflecting on some stuff. I'm trying to set up some listing. I came here like 2-3 hours ago, and I'm sitting on my desk trying to make sure that I kind of stay competitive, in this space where I sell. I sell used computers on eBay, monitors, laptops, tablets, phones, everything around IT hardware. And I'm just thinking, see, right now, we pretty much understand that eBay is pushing this promoted listing thing. And if you go to your eBay seller cockpit, you pretty much see sometimes eBay suggests to you a percentage that you actually have to, promote your items for it to stand a chance to be considered. Sometimes I have 10.9%. I have, some recommendations for eBay, 12.5%. Even though I am promoting my offers at 5%, but eBay apparently tells me that this is not enough. If you want to stay competitive, you have to be seen doing what we are suggesting to you. In some cases, 9%, 17.5%, which is actually a little bit high. So I'm trying to set up my offers, and I feel like if I want to go with this proposition from eBay, which is this high percentage, 12.5%, 16.3%. If I decide to do that, there are two, consequent effects that will have on my listing. If I decide to raise this listing percentage to 17.5%, for example, my profit is going to be pretty much gone. It's like I'm just going to halve my profit. And when I take a look at it, it might result in a situation where you are just selling. At the end of the day, you're not really making a lot of money. All right. And then if I want to raise my price as to account for this, increased promoted listing fee or percentage, that will mean that my item is going to be more expensive. And in this way, I'm not going to be able to stay competitive, selling, because right now the competition is a lot. A lot of people have been commenting on my videos. How do you stay competitive? There's a lot of competition. My items are being shown on the 20th page and all that stuff. Yes, it is real. Competition is a lot, and people are pretty much selling these items at breakneck price. I've seen people selling these items even at a loss. I've seen people selling computers at €5 profit. And this is not the idea, but this is what happens when the competition gets very, very stiff. And I'm just sitting here and thinking, this is actually, something that we actually have to take a critical look at, because the idea is not to sell these items for pretty much no profit, because there's a lot of work to be done. Setting up a PC, packing it up, and making sure that the PC gets shipped out is pretty much a lot of work. And when you decide to go that route, of selling used computers, you deserve to be paid, a decent amount at the end of the day. Let's say €40, €50. But in a situation where the competition is so high, there's pretty much no space for you to just arbitrarily raise the price of your item, because this is not a monopoly. You have other people making sure that the market stays, sane. If you decide to sell your item, say, for €100 for an item that the market has pretty much fixed the price at €50, you are not going to be making sales. And if you want to account for this eBay promoted listing where the percentage that eBay is actually proposing is so high, and if you want to really do that when you do not have the margin to actually make sure that you still stay profitable, then it's going to be difficult to just arbitrarily raise your promoted listing percentage, out of something that will make you stay profitable. This is exactly the situation I am in. Last week I wanted to make a test, which I did go ahead to list some item using this, percentage that eBay has suggested to me, and I pretty much didn't see any major difference. Although I didn't track, the first page of the eBay search to see if my items were really showing. But one thing I also did do was to list an item with 0%, promoted listing, which is just turn off the promoted listing. And what I did do was to list this item, a little bit below market price. It is something I was willing to do. It's a test I wanted to just do for myself. So I listed an item, just one piece of a PC, with a price that was pretty much below market price. And what I did find out was that people did click on this offer. They viewed it, even though it wasn't sold, but I got people actually clicking on this offer. And one thing that came to my mind was that people clicked on this offer because the price was good. Of course, nobody was buying it because at the end of the day, I turned it off just to make sure that I didn't sell that particular PC at a loss, But what that tells me was that if the price of the item is very, very cheap, people will definitely look for this item. So I'm thinking now, today is Wednesday, perhaps I want to go ahead and list some new items with pretty much no promoted listing and give a price that is highly, highly competitive, which is if somebody goes onto eBay and tries to search for a particular item, say, a Lenovo ThinkCentre desktop PC, and for one reason or the other, filters the search, the cheapest PC gets to be shown first, and the most expensive PC gets thrown to the next page, definitely somebody would be able to see this offer that I'm going to set up and perhaps take a closer look at it. Given that I have already done the test, I see that when the item is selling for cheap, people still have a way of, finding it. And eBay also have a way of just, putting this item in the search. It might not be for the whole day, but I still feel like at some point during the 24-hour day, eBay still gets to show offers are not promoted because people do not have a lot of money to just spend at, what eBay is proposing them. I want to imagine that there are still a lot of buyers that will say to themselves, yes, this item is showing up on my search, but is this the cheapest item in this eBay platform? I want to go ahead and see how I can actually search and see what the cheapest item is, if I'm actually getting value for my money. And if you have promoted all your items at, say, 15%, of course, your prices are going to be high. And if somebody is to search on eBay and actually go ahead to filter this search by clicking on display item to the lowest price first, you might be skimming yourself out of business. And this is something I have noticed, and I'm telling myself, you have to be seen everywhere. Of course, there is a place for me to set up, multiple offers, which is an offer that is not highly promoted, so that if somebody goes ahead to filter the search, I will be there. And I also have to set up some offers where I have, the items promoted at the highest promoted listing fee. Of course, increasing the prices so that if there are those careless buyers that do not care, like they do not have time to actually go about trying to do this research of getting the cheapest items, definitely I will still be showing in this search, and I will be making sales either way. This is the strategy I'm thinking of, and I'm just telling myself, man, this promoted listing thing is kind of, I do not know if it's really doing a lot of good right now, because if I have bought PCs and I do not want to start promoting these offers at 19% or 17%, at the end of the day, just make zero profit on them. I would like to promote them, say 5%, but what the competition is doing, they are pretty much promoting their item at an outrageous amount that eBay is also proposing us that, look, the average promoted listing percentage is like 17%. So go ahead and change your offer to that. Of course, it's not like eBay is forcing us to do it, but they're just telling you. And if you want to make sales, sometimes you want to tell yourself to give it a try. And if the item peradventure sells at that rate, you might not be making a lot of profit. So the strategy I'm going to be using this week up to the weekend is to tweak my listing in such a way that I have items, placed on the eBay platform, promoted at pretty much 0%, so that if somebody goes here to search for these items, for those people that are highly concerned about the amount that they are paying for these hardwares, and they feel like they want to really buy the cheapest but the best item, then they will have the opportunity to actually see my offer. Instead of a situation where, the items are so promoted that if somebody searches, you are nowhere to be found because your items, are too expensive. This is just a personal reflection of mine. Perhaps somebody out there has some idea what to do as not to skim yourself out, from the competition, because the worst thing you can do is to have goods, decent products ready to go, but because of your price just being too high, because you wanted to account for the promoted listing percentage that you are using, then you are skimming yourself out of business. This is also not a good situation that one should actually be in. So let me know what you think. What is the strategy you are currently using, for the promoted listing thing on eBay? Are you doing this flat rate 5% or offers? You do not care, or are you actually taking your, taking pains to look at your individual offers and trying to see if you're actually competitive in terms of price, what the competition is selling, or are you also not even using the promoted listing thing altogether? I would like to hear what you think. So do me a favor, go to the comment section. Let us get this conversation going. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and be subscribed. Be part of this conversation. Click on the like button if you like this video. Definitely tomorrow I'm going to be bringing you more actions, flipping pieces on eBay, Until I see you again, peace.